Hi, good night. Father Gabriel here. I walked into school yesterday and one of the new teachers said to me, "You look very ritual today." I had the blessed candles in my hand and the red stole for the Feast of St. Blaise. And really, the last 3 days have been very ritual days here in Ireland. Sunday was the Feast of St. Bridget, a big day in many counties in Ireland. There are many different rituals associated with it. I know in County Kildare, the man of the house would leave out a lump of linen on the doorstep. But before that, he would have gone round the house 3 times, knocked on the door 3 times, and put down the linen, left it there overnight, and then it would be brought into the house the next day and put over the range in that house for the year. And if anybody was sick during the year, a snippet of that linen would be taken from it and put into the bed of the sick person. Then, of course, we had Candlemas, when we celebrate the feast of the presentation of the child Jesus in the temple. The light of Christ finally being proclaimed to the Jewish people. And there, representing the Old Testament, are Simeon and Anna, the prophetess. And then, of course, we have St. Blaise himself. St. Blaise was an Armenian. Armenia is a tiny little country tucked away there beside Turkey, modern-day Georgia, and Azerbaijan. It's a country with a history much like our own. A country where the people, even though they accepted Christianity from very early on, in fact, it was the first Christian nation, but they have suffered persecution. They have suffered for the belief of their faith. The first genocide of the 20th century was not the Jews under Hitler, but was the Armenians under the Turkish government. 1.5 million Armenians were murdered by the Turks in one swoop on their country. They have suffered, they've had oppression, but they still have their faith. Most Armenians belong to the Armenian Church, which is separated from Rome. But there is a small group of Armenian Catholics who are still united to Rome, but have their own rites and their own way of saying Mass. St. Blaise is associated with sore throats and with infections of the throat because legend has it that he saved a young boy who choked on a fishbone. And in the past, throat infections at this time of the year were very common and could be deadly. These rituals remind us that God isn't separate from our daily life. They remind us that we don't have to go off hither and thither to find God. These rituals remind us that God is here in our everyday life. He's around us. You want to see the face of God, you look at the people around you. As Jesus said, if you give a cup of cold water to the least of my brethren, you have given to me. When you attack another member of the church, when you attack another member of the body of Christ, Jesus himself said to St. Paul, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" That's the great doctrine that we believe, that Christ is God made man, that he sought fit to become human being and show us that in our everyday life is where we will find the divine. And we can, if we set aside time each day to look at our life and to see where is God touching my life today. Good night and God bless.
Hello and welcome to this week's LTV News, Information and Sports Desk. The main news of this week is that the Tom Crean Sports Complex in the Castle Grounds is going to reopen again after it being closed for the last 18 months. The Tom Crean Sports Complex was closed for health and safety reasons, as I said, 18 months ago, because the toilet and showering facilities were not up to proper standards. But over the last 18 months, as I say, clubs in the Macroom area have been denied somewhere where they can train and play different sports such as basketball, racquetball, and the powerlifting club are in there as well. But on last Friday, Mr. Barry O'Brien, who's the CEO of the County Vocational Education Committee, stated that the complex would reopen this week on the basis that athletes acquire alternative changing facilities. The committee have come under increased pressure, as I said, over the last number of months from the various clubs around town, and it's great to see that this facility is again being reopened. And there are also ambitious plans for the complex with an application going into the Department of Education for increased funding for the whole scene down there. Now, so on this Friday night at the Mons Bar, there's going to be a script of music, song and storytelling, and Connie Joe will be playing there along with Marion, and everybody is welcome to come along. Now, last week in the Scout Hall, there was an investiture ceremony took place, and we went along with our cameras to see what was happening in the Scout Den.
Boys, you are about to be enrolled as members of the Great Brotherhood of Scouting. You are required to make a promise to do your best, to love, honour and serve Jesus your Lord, to help your neighbour at all times and to live the Scout law. It is a serious promise to make and difficult to fulfil. Be confident God will help you to be faithful to that promise and the Scout law.
Boys, do you know what your honour is?
Yes.
Truthful and honest.
Do you know and understand the Scout law?
Yes, Reverend Father.
Have you honestly fulfilled all that is required to become a Scout?
Yes, Reverend Father, with all my heart.
Do you promise to observe faithfully the Scout principle, the Scout law and rules of the Catholic Scouts of Ireland?
Yes, Reverend Father, with all my heart. Boys, can I trust you, on your honour, to do your best, to love, honour and serve Jesus your Lord, his church and Mary his mother, to help your neighbour at all times and to live the Scout law?
Yes.
Okay. Bless the nectars. No, we'll bless the nectars first.
Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. God, by whose word all things are made holy, bless these neckerchiefs, berets and badges. Grant that those who wear them may be always mindful of what they symbolize and of the ideals to which they are called through their membership of your family and of the Scout movement. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Now the boys are going to come up one by one and make their promise.
On my honour, with the help of God, I, Dylan Sheehan, promise to do my best to love, honour and serve Jesus my Lord, his church, Mary his mother, and to help my neighbour at all times, and to live the Scout law.
On my honour, with the help of God, I, Conor O'Mahony, promise to do my best to love, honour and serve Jesus my Lord, his church and Mary his mother, to help my neighbour at all times and to live the Scout law.
Scouts, by the virtue of the power and authority vested in me by National Council, I hereby declare you invested Scouts. You are committed to the care of your Scout leaders and the companionship of those other Scouts. Let it be your ambition to become as great a Scout as possible, and it will be our special pride and joy to see you advance to the highest grade of your Scouthood.
you scouts return to your patrols?
No, I think at this stage that they deserve a round of applause. Is invested first of all, he gets what's known as the tracker badge, and then those lads that have been invested go on to do another badge which is a bit more difficult, a little bit more scouting skills involved. It's known as the Explorer badge, and we have a number of Explorer badges to present here tonight, so maybe Marie will do the necessary there now and then. The troop has grown a little bit. Quite recently we had to increase the number of patrols. So we have some new patrol leaders, and we have a number of patrol leaders badges that will be patrol leader stripes that will be presented. So maybe Chris, you will present the patrol leader stripes. The second one, patrol leader, new patrol leader Robbie Lillis, David Cronin, John Lynch, and Simon Henry Willis. That's an assistant patrol leader.
Sorry, something.
Yeah, Simon.
I'll come back now, sorry. Simon.
David Cronin.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, John Lynch is missing tonight. He's not with us, but he will that will be presented at a later stage. Now, as well as the patrol leaders badge, they have an assistant. So we have a number of new assistant patrol leaders. I think you need a phone for that.
We have the phone.
You have one. Patrol leader, assistant patrol leader David Kelleher. Assistant Patrol Leader Victor O'Callaghan, Assistant Patrol Leader Tom Barrett, and Assistant Patrol Leader Sean O'Connor, who is deputising tonight for his PDL, who is missing. So I think they need to deserve a round of applause. A number of merit badges. Now, what a merit badge consists of is that there are various tests that boys can do. They need not necessarily always be of a scouting nature. There are quite a number of merit badges, and you'll see some of the lads with merit badges on their sleeves. They earn them then gradually, and having attained a certain number of them and required merit badges, well, they can go on into the next stage of their merit badge collection. And maybe Father, you will present to the artist merit badge to Simon Henry Willis. Well done, Simon. All management badge to Thomas Barrett.
Towards the end. On the left.
Now we have two lads here who are struggling at this stage. I thought they might be finished, but the older they get, the harder they seem to be able to push them. We have two lads that are on the verge of hopefully getting the National Scout Award, which was the second highest badge that they can get. They have recently been promoted to the position of senior patrol leaders. I'm not too sure myself exactly what badges they have, because I know that Marie was more successful than me in putting a bit of pressure on them. So Marie, will you present the factors that they have achieved too, and maybe you would explain a little bit about them to them.
Yeah, what they've achieved is their scout leader or their camp leader badge, which means they've done numerous camps and arranged 2 camps of their own and had to do logs with them. One of their camps was going to Mount Melleray on their own for a weekend. The other one was a camp to Kilcully, where they took a number of the lads from Scouts with them and looked after them for the weekend. The other one is the social awareness badge, where they had to do a project. They had to go out, study it themselves, go around with people involved in the subject and do a project on it. Billy did a project on drug awareness and Tommy did a project on eating disorders. And then the World Friendship Badge is learning about different aspects of the world, the United Nations, the European Union, scouting all around the world, and they pass on their knowledge then to the troop. So Billy and Tommy come out.
That concludes the formal part of our investiture tonight.
Now, Macroom senior citizens would like to remind people that on next Friday morning in Fitzgerald's off Fitzgerald Street there's going to be a coffee morning in aid of Ceylon Haven. That's the residential centre down in Lucy's Lane. And they'd ask everybody to come along and support this coffee morning. Also on next Tuesday night, that is February the 10th, the monthly social will take place in the Father Ryan Hall. Music will be by Jerry McCarthy, and everybody is welcome to come along. That is starting at 9 o'clock in the Scout Hall, or in the Father Ryan Hall, sorry. Now, on last Friday, the Minister for Rural Affairs, Eamon O'Keefe, paid a visit to Macroom, and he was in the Tagus Centre last Friday morning talking about family planning for Post Fischler. We went along with our cameras just to pick up to see what was happening, and we'll bring you some of these interviews now.
That's what we're about. That's what the minister who is here is about. But I want you to make sure that this. I'm delighted to be here, just to have an opportunity, maybe to say a few words and maybe to put a few ideas in your mind. Now, I accept in the better land areas, and the land round here is variable depending on how far you've come. But that what's happening now is happening fast and happening furious. And that a way of life that maybe 30 or 40 years ago seemed secure is changing rapidly. We were lucky where I lived that the land was so bad that we had to make all these decisions 20 years ago. And I was thinking last night, I was up in Mallow, and you know the great land they have up there, and big meaty farmers. I don't know if any of you were in Mallow last night. Were any of you up there? But I was thinking on my way home about my neighbours and what they were doing when I came to Cardamona 30 years ago, particularly the young lads, and what some of them are doing today. One lad had 300 acres of hill, typical hill farm. But we started creating employment. I think he owns 4 Arctics on the 300 acres of hill today. Another guy, his father had died young. He stayed at home, left school, massively clever guy. He used to drive a tractor for me 60 miles a day, unload 5 ton of stuff, come back, do the farm jobs and go playing football in the evening. In fact, I remember him one day back at the college here in Ballyvourney with me, and he had the arm in a sling. He broke it. and he sits there and playing football, and halfway through the match it was a bit tight, and the next thing the arm comes out of the sling and up in the air and catches the ball. He's got a big plate in the arm as a result, but that kind of guy. I suggested him one day he'd stop working for us and that he'd go cutting crooked firewood that we were producing in the timber mill. He then started selling briquettes, and now he's one of the biggest coal importers. He's driving a big car around the place. He's still the same guy he ever was. But I said to him one day, I said, by the way, I said, I noticed you're not cutting the firewood anymore. No, he says, the money's in the coal at the moment, he says, but the coal will stop someday too, he says, and I'll go at something else, and he will. Now, I accept that these are the guys with that ability in them to change and keep adapting, and no matter what comes at them, they're going to survive, they're going to keep changing with the world, and they'll keep living where they're living, and they're still back in the mountains, in what would be considered very remote places, but they're survivors. But at the end of the day, the one thing they recognised, and I think generally our area had to recognise, is that the world was changing, and that no politician, no government can stop certain things. And I think that this is what Teagasc got about, and what this whole decoupling thing has really brought to a head. I noticed on the screen behind me, it's gone now, that you were talking about part-time farmers. Now the argument that I started with last night, and nobody else has contradicted me, but I've been to see the Teagasc contradict me. But my view is that it's taken more and more land to give you the lifestyle that your PAYE payer is expecting nowadays. In other words, you want the same lifestyle as they have, and if you want your income to improve, it's going to take more and more land. Is that right? Would Teagasc agree with that?
That's exactly what we've been talking about here for the last, well, you were in Kilnamartyr talking and giving out checks, that's what we were talking about here.
So you accept the principle?
I do, yeah. Absolutely.
That one snag then, they ain't making it anymore. So nobody has increased the land acre yard. In fact, the sea is taking it away in the edges. So that means two things. You either have a declining standard of living and farming, but you know what's going to happen if that happens, people get out. The second alternative, we have bigger and bigger farmers and a lot fewer of them. There's a problem with that if you did only that. Or the third one is, you try mix your enterprise with some other income from outside. And when you think about it, there ain't any other way to go. Or if there is, will you please ring up my department next week and tell them, because we're looking for it. And so far we haven't figured it out. And we're a number of years, and I'm not taking this flippantly, we're a number of ways, trying to think of every possible solution. But I don't see it any more than I saw it when I went to Carnamona exactly 30 years ago. And when they have me on landmark saying at that time that we faced what you're facing now, and that was that if we wanted the population of our area to stabilise, that we had to get off-farm jobs and we had to get a fair number of the farmers involved in off-farm income. Now, the next question is which farmers? And what arrangements? And how are we going to do this? And my view is that's something that each one of you have to decide. And somebody said to me last night, they said, Minister, how many cows? It was a good trick question anyway for a guy that only lives in sheep farming country. But how many cows does it take to give you a viable living? Well, that's like asking somebody, how much of a PAYE income do you need to have a good standard of living? And some people live in less than others. Some people are happier in less than others. And some people aren't happy if they haven't got 2 million a year. So that issue, you can't answer that question. But what I think we can all say here is that none of us ever want to live in a situation that our income is steadily going downwards. And if any of you are happy with that situation, I think you're in a minority of one. So all of us want our income over time to go up. If our neighbours' income is going up, it ain't going to happen through farming in the classical sense of just continuing farming as you were. You might get some will get out of that by getting more land, but for others we have to now look beyond that. Now, the next thing that when I was dealing with this issue 30 years ago, not just as minister, the next thing I tried to do in my community was to look at all sources of income and not to dismiss any way that any person in the community could turn a shilling. That if we got something happened that brought money into the community, that we were happy with that. And that we tried to go with the idea of a family income. In other words, all sources of income into the house. Just give you the kind of things we would have been doing. In our case, we'd have had farming. And we were very anxious that the farmers would hold on to the land, and in fact they have. And thanks be to God, when bachelor or uncles and so on died, the land tends to go to nephews and nieces and not be sold on the open market. It's not been bought by holiday homeowners and so on. Most of it is staying in the land. In fact, there's very little selling off of land in the area. So that consolidated farms and farm income is important. But what we did find was, particularly in our situation where we had either suckler cows or sheep as the main two types of farming, we found that when the farmer, if he organised himself, got an off-farm job, then the farmer could make the investment because he knew that he had a steady income he could live off, and he could use the farm income and reinvest it and add to his assets over time. He could take a longer view because he didn't have to worry about where the money was coming from to put the petrol in the car and the bread on the table, because that was coming from the day job. And in that way we found that in fact on the smaller farms, or in the dry stock farms, even in quite sizable farms, that part-time farming did not necessarily, in fact it had the opposite effect, did not interfere with the quality. And that's when I came in here and we were talking and waiting for the photograph that I asked about the dairy farmers. Because I do accept that the big difference between what I'm talking about and what some of you are talking about is the fact that the dairy cows have to milk twice a day, and therefore that is not half as easy to do in a job and farming situation. Now there's all sorts of self-income you can generate. We have the Irish colleges, for example, and back the road here in Ballyvourne and up in Coolay you'd have that. Ballingeary. In fact, I started learning my Irish in Ballingeary years and years ago. We won't say how many years ago. But there's B&B. There are people who get self-employed in little micro-industries. There are people who provide services to other farmers. And all we went at was saying any way somebody can earn income, self-employed, employed, part-time, full-time, spouse, self, or whatever way, that's money into the household, and that we created the opportunities. So our job as a community was to create as many opportunities as possible. And it was up to each individual household to go like you would in a restaurant and pick off the menu of opportunities and decide do you want to take it or not. Now, I'll just mention one other thing I'd like to just touch on. Do any of you, or did any of you, or do any people around here take part in community employment schemes? Do any small farmers? Do small farmers take part in community employment schemes? I'm not going to ask the people here who do to put up their hand or anything, but do they? Have they used the community employment schemes, the FOSS schemes? Any of them go on FOSS schemes to supplement farm income? No? Yeah, okay. Now, a lot of you are running into a trouble. Those farmers who used to use FOSS schemes on the farm, and they were happy enough with that and they were working away, you were running into a problem because FOSS told you that after 3 years you were gone. Isn't that right? And it was in some cases worked out quite well. Now the new rural social scheme will be like a FOSS scheme, but there'll be no 3-year rule. And as long as we have a place, you can stay in the scheme. If we have more applicants than we have places, you'll go off, the longest on will go off. And then the next year they can come back because they'll be the shortest on because they'll have no period, they'll have done their year off. And they'll come back and the longest on in that stage will go off and so on, around. If we have enough places for everybody. Now some people would say, well, that's a kind of dole scheme. Well, first of all I want to make one thing absolutely clear. There are farmers, and there are farmers in Cork, and I have the numbers, who are availing of Farm Assist. Now I think Farm Assist is good, but it's limited because it's means tested. And therefore if you improve yourself you lose 70% because they'll keep means testing you again and again. The idea of the schemes are that we need work and services in the community. We need all sorts of services, from daycare services and so on. And on the other hand, farmers need income, and income should not be tied to a system that if they improve themselves a bit, somebody comes back and claws it all back off them. And therefore, I do think that for those of you who are now beginning to get to the threshold, that's just beginning to be a little too late, that this might be a bit of a safety net And if you use it as a year or two and then you get some other way out of your problem, fine. But it's very nice to know that there's a safety net beyond which you will not fall. And that's going to be considerably higher than the basic dole, because you get your payment for your 20 hours a week and you will have the full farm income in your pocket as well. And I think that's important. I think it's important to know that that exists. Because in my calculation, looking at the way the figures are going, there are people who are going to find a comparative to the standard of living outside them, that they're coming to that level. And if I might say, particularly in farm situations. And I want to take away any stigma. I want to take away any stigma, any ideas people might have that this isn't something, this isn't a proper job. We need these services. I have to find an efficient and effective way of providing rural services. I need the daycare. We need the after-schools care. We need all sorts of things in the community. And this is one efficient way of doing a trade-off to provide them. And therefore, we will be begging people who are eligible to come forward and take part. Because we will need the labour, we'll need the effort, and we'll give a fair return for it. I'm going to organise that scheme. You know in a household, we'll say a couple in a household. Now, in a lot of households, I bet you if I asked the farmers here, I suppose 80% or more of the farms, for historic reasons, because people marry into farms and move into farms, are probably in the men's names. Now, my experience of doing clinics in Galway is that the farm is in the man's name, the farm assistant is probably in the man's name, and when they come to the clinic, the woman has all the money, all of the details. You want details about medical cards, you want the RSI number, you want everything, and it's always the woman who has done all the homework and keeping all the books. In fact, in some cases, they don't even bother bringing the men with them at all. And I will get in the embarrassing situation that I'll make a social welfare appeal, and I'll have to say, well, you need a signature here. 3 minutes later, when I'm not looking, the signature will appear on the bit of paper. And I think that's been known to happen. And as the man says, I always put it this way. It's like a company name. The guys, often the man of the house is named down as the company name of the business name, but in reality, the home arrangement might be slightly different, and I don't want to interfere. But what we are going to do in recognition of that, and in recognition that I need a mixture of men and women on my scheme, what we're going to do is this. We're going to say that if you have a couple and pharmacist, and we'll say it's John and Mary for a minute, and John's name is down the farm and John's name is down on the pharmacist. But when they sit down and they look at the rural social scheme, Mary is the one that actually wants to get involved and earn the income and do the work. And we have an opening there for her. Then she will be entitled as an alternative to him to go and take the opportunity, and in that way we level the playing pitch between men and women. Now both won't be able to come, but they'll figure out which one. The family will figure out, because I don't think I should interfere within a family, but I do think I should give the choice, for there is a dependent spouse on the social welfare. I shouldn't put up a Chinese wall that would keep women out from participating and earning money, just because of the traditional pattern of landholding and the way most people traditionally signed up for their entitlements. So I hope, give you a picture of some of my thoughts of where we are. To summarise, there is change coming. I do not believe we're going to be able to stop that change. I don't think any of us 10 years ago would have believed that this country would have changed so much that 80% of the people would all have mobile phones. So change is coming. What we need to do is to help you through the change. Not only as individuals, but as communities. And the first thing is to get everybody, as you've been doing here, to think straight about it. And not wish a world that's disappearing would remain. For better or for worse, it's changing. Then we must try to encourage people analysing their own individual situation to see how they're going to make sure that for themselves and their families, their income keeps pace with comparative incomes elsewhere, and how they can reorganise their lives if necessary, so that they can combine this new way of doing things and come out at the end happy and contented. I would like to say that I do believe the full-time farmer still has a role to play, but he's going to need more land, or she's going to need more land. And that will be part of what is happening, and some of that has happened naturally because of bachelors and things who had no heirs handing land on to nephews and nieces. But a lot of more farmers are going to be part-time. And let nobody say it'd be great if we got rid of all the part-timers. If you did that, you'd have so few farmers left that when the farmer wanted to do something, he'd only be a tiny number in his own community. He'd be totally outnumbered. And then we'd have another problem, because nobody would want him or her to spread any slurry. Nobody would want them to drive the tractors on the road or muck the road, and you know all the things that would happen if very few people were farming. We need a big number of people still with us taking the land. So it's my pleasure to be Minister of Rural Development. I don't mind how robust the debate is. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to tell you what you'd like to hear. We're here to tell you what we think is the way we're going, and then to try help ourselves together to work forward to a better life for everybody if we can achieve that. Good America.
Now, the Brewery Gap cinema for the coming week, starting on Friday the 6th of February and on Saturday the 7th of February, Sunday the 8th of February and Tuesday the 10th of February. There's a film in there at 8:30, it's The Last Samurai, and it's 15 PG. Now on Monday the 9th of February, in association with the Ceylon Film Society, the film they are showing this Monday night at 8:30 is Swimming Pool. Also, we've been asked to inform you that coming attractions to the cinema will be Cool Mountain and Runaway Jury. Now, on the theatre side of things, on Wednesday the 11th to Friday the 13th, St. Mary's Secondary School will present a variety show called Cabaret. Now, I have with me this evening two members of the cast of that show, and we will have an interview with them now. I have with me here now in the Brewery Gap two of the students who are taking part in the St. Mary's Transition Year variety concert in the Brewery Gap next week. I have Grace Nihan and Moran Cockery. As I said, they're two members of the cast. Now, Grace, I'll ask you first. This has been put on by Transition Year students. When did you get the idea and how long were you at it?
For many years now, St. Mary's has been producing shows, fashion shows, and just for the last few years, variety shows. It's part of our Transition Year programme, and it's basically called the Variety Show Project. Well, we decided to have a variety show this year because of the wide variety of talent that our year has, from acting and singing and dance. That's
very good. One second, I go out tomorrow here now. How long have you been preparing to put the show together? When did you start?
We started at the end of October, really, and then after Christmas we were doing it from like 2 to 4 every Thursday, and last Monday we started practicing the Brewery Gap.
In the Brewery Gap?
Yep, here.
And how long do you think the show will take altogether?
About 2.5 hours.
About 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
No, Grace, tell me, I know that in previous years they were doing fashion shows, but
yeah.
Watching what we were on stage there, there seemed to be a lot of talent up in that transition year class. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. We're doing stuff like cabaret, like songs from Chicago.
Right.
We're also putting on a Lloyd Webber scene. We have a comedy sketch, and we have modern dancing and things like that.
It looks very well on stage, and I presume that it will be very successful as all put together on the night. Now, Grace, back to you again. Have you ever been involved in variety shows before, or have you been on stage before?
Well, I was doing speech and drama for about 12 years, and I was also part of the Gaiety school when they used to teach her. So I did small bits every now and then, but nothing as big as this. But most girls in our year haven't been on stage before. They're very nervous about it. But we have some people who are well used to it anyway.
Right.
So there's a great variety of experience in there, and there's a lot of coaching and pep talking going on by people who've had the experience of being on the Bergkamp stage.
Maureen, could you just tell me what teachers are involved with you and who's producing the show? And
Anne O'Callaghan's actually producing the show, and Kay Fury is producing also, and we've had Miss Murphy doing the comedy sketch as well.
she's your traditional coordinator, is she?
Yep.
Very good. It's running next week, starting on?
It's starting on Wednesday the 11th, the 11th and 12th and 13th at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. No matinees, no?
No, not this year, no.
Not this year. And the charge to come in is?
€5 concessions and €8 for adults, and they're available from the Bergkamp ticket office.
Very good. Thanks to the girls for coming along with us. As I say, what we've seen here in rehearsals is very exciting. So we'll advise everybody to come to Bergkamp next week for the St. Mary's Secondary School variety show called Cabaret. Thank you. Thanks, Gavin. Also in the Bergkamp Theatre on Wednesday the 18th of February at 8 p.m. is a very popular show. It's coming in from England and it's called ABBA's Forever. This is a tribute band to the great band ABBA. And as I say, that's in the Bergkamp on the 18th of February at 8 p.m. and tickets are €14 each with concessions of €12. Now, last night in Cork, the UCC Leaving Cert quiz took place, and it was on science subjects and physics subjects, and there were 44 teams from all over Munster took place in this quiz, and De La Salle College Macroom actually came out on top. They finished in first place with 77 marks. Followed by Killorgan Community School, and in third place were Thurles CBS. Now, this is a great win for the lads in De La Salle, and we'd like to congratulate the members of the team, which consisted of Owen Hyde from Killamatra, Colm Kaler from Macroom, Angus O'Leary from Dromcara, and Conor O'Leary from Kilbarry. Again, well done there to De La Salle College Macroom. To remind you that in St. Colman's Church Macroom on February the 18th there is a presentation of Prayer Through Song with David Parks. We now bring you an interview which was done by Donald O'Mahony with Father Donald O'Callaghan regarding this Prayer Through Song.
Bado iarab winter ir vúscrí agus fáilte go dtí an clár. There's an evening of prayer to be held on Wednesday, February the 18th, 2004, at 8 p.m. in St. Colman's Church, Macroom. And this is under the auspices of Minter Wirra. And to talk about it, I have Father Donald O'Callaghan of Minter Wirra here. Father Donald, what exactly is Minter Wirra?
Minter Wirra is a new lay community that we have formed. At the moment we're based in Garryvoe in East Cork, and we're really open to young people from all over the country and beyond. It's intended to be a place where young people can take time out if they are finding it difficult to settle themselves. We're talking about young people from 18 upwards. Usually the people that come to us are in their 20s or early 30s, and they have spent time either in college or in work, and they're not over happy with what they're doing and maybe want to do something different. We're hoping that from it we will get people who have a vocation to the priesthood or religious life, and also that it'll give them a chance to develop their faith a bit further. What we do is we have prayer, and we have a time for work which involves craft work and organic gardening and various different enterprises that we can do as a community. Also, we're in a very good setting near the sea where there's good time for recreation and time to go away for long walks or do whatever is needed to sort out where they're going in life. It's really, I suppose, what's needed, I think, today for young people who are maybe at the early stages of when they would get stressed out or depressed if they don't get an opportunity to get away from home or get away from their present environment and see that there are other options in life and other ways of making progress.
Now, how do you contact these people?
Again, up to now, most of them have come through the various prayer movements, the youth gatherings with the Holy Father at the Youth World Day of Youth, and also through those who go to Taizé or go to Medjugorje or Lourdes or Fatima, and who are involved in youth groups as a result of this. And then one of the great organisations, I suppose, working in the country at the moment for young people is the Youth 2000 movement. And at various weekends, you're meeting young people who really have had a great experience of faith, of renewal of their faith, and want to take it further and want to maybe see could they develop a little more knowledge of the church and its teaching, and also sort out whether or not they're being called to the religious life or how they could be better lay people within the community.
Now, are you already set up and going?
We already have a number of us together who are organising the beginnings of the community. We are presently occupying a building that had been used in the past for drug addicts as a recovery centre, and we've been given a lease on this. But we're also at the moment finalising the purchase of a property of our own, where we will have 6 acres of land, and we have a number of outbuildings and so on that we can develop as workshops and develop our garden centre and so on. We're hoping to have that within the next couple of weeks, that we will have that finalised. Now, of course, the big problem with doing all of this is the funding, and we're appealing for funds in various different ways and finding ways of raising the funds. One of them is this prayer evening that we're having in the church. Monsignor O'Donnell has given us the opportunity to bring David Parks to Macroom. He is an internationally renowned gospel singer and has a number of very fine tapes and CDs available on his music. And he is also one who has had a great physical healing from Crohn's disease. He was in the final stages of Crohn's disease when he was completely healed physically. And he will talk about that. Also, it gives us an opportunity to bring together some young people from the Cenaculo community. Cenaculo community was formed by Sister Elvira in Saluzzo in Italy in 1983, and since then has become a worldwide movement for drug addicts, to a centre where they recover from drug addiction. And we'll have 2 of the young lads from Knock. They have a centre in Knock at the moment. It was opened about 3.5 years ago, and 2 of them will come as well on that night and speak about their experience of drug addiction and how they have been recovering from it, using Sister Elvira's method, which is entirely based on prayer and work, and no methadone, no substitutes for the drugs other than time for each other in prayer and in work. Now, they will talk themselves about that, and there's no need for me to say much more. Yes. We would encourage people to come on the night, especially because it's an opportunity to hear the way God is working powerfully in the lives of these people, in the life of David Parks, and in the kind of community we're trying to establish. And it's the positive things that we need to centre on in life at the moment. And if we do that, we can do it as a night of prayer and praise to God in the church. And it's at the early stages of Lent, and it would be an ideal time for people to come. Now, the tickets, we're selling tickets, or trying to get tickets sold at short notice all over the parish of Macroom and beyond it. Evelyn McSweeney has the tickets in the square and is hoping to be able to distribute them from there. And also they'll be available in various other ways. We might have them available in churches or in sacristies after Mass, or various individuals will possibly go around and try to sell them individually. We're charging €12 a ticket for the night. All the funds will go towards our funding from Winterthur, which our estimated budget over the next 5 years is somewhere in the region of $750,000. If we can get the right funding and get this community up and functioning, we hope to be able to provide a great service for young people who are in need of it at the present time.
What age group do you intend attracting?
Yeah, most of the ones that have been made contact with me so far, and we've had about 25 people in contact now. A number of them have come and helped us with done a lot of the voluntary work in renewing the buildings that we're in at the moment. Hadn't been occupied for about 8 years before I moved in there at the beginning of September. Bishop McGee released me full-time for the community, giving me an option of 3 years to stay with the community for that length of time and get it established and get it working. And we've had a big lot of young people, mainly from the early 20s and early 30s, early 20s to early 30s. And these are the ones who are taking time out from whatever they've been doing. And they're glad of a place to come where we begin every day with prayer. We follow a program similar to the Chanacular community, but we're not dealing with people who are drug addicts or alcoholics. We're taking people only who don't have a problem of that kind, but who just need time to see where they want to go. And we follow a program of prayer to begin with, and then we have 2 hours study every day in which we have an opportunity to visit again, I suppose, the teachings of the Church by way of the documents of Vatican II, the New Catechism, and the Lives of the Saints. This is what we're encouraging people to look at, as well as an introduction to the Scriptures. And then being near the sea, they can go for walks along the beach or whatever. And then we do the housework, we do the gardening, and we're doing craft work. I'm a carpenter by trade, and we're trying to do liturgical furniture as well as doing wood turning and various other wooden crafts. Winterthur
is, in other words, it's a new organisation.
Completely new organisation, which we've just founded recently. And
right.
we won't be fully up and functioning till sometime after Easter. And by then we hope to be in a position to be able to take in people regularly. Anyone anywhere in the country who wants to take time out and is prepared to give 6 months commitment and come and work and live in community, we will be open to receiving them.
Yeah. And of course you would like helpers in various ways throughout the parishes of the diocese.
We need an immense amount of support and help throughout the diocese, and I think we will get it. Bishop McGee is very strongly behind the project we're doing, and so are the various members of the clergy throughout the diocese have given me great support in setting out to do this. So I think we will be calling on people in all the parishes around to have various functions to raise funding for us, or to give any of the practical help that they can to the, I suppose, voluntary work within the community itself and in the grounds and the layout that we have.
Yes.
We have a lot of work to do.
I know. And that place that you have in mind now, is that close to
It is.
Garryvoe?
It's very near the Garryvoe itself,
I know,
and it's within. It has its own sort of entrance onto the beach, and
I know.
not very far from Garryvoe.
Yeah. Now, a lot of us might not know where Garryvoe actually is. Right. Say, going from Youghal to Middleton.
Yes, I suppose from this side you're going from Middleton towards Youghal, and at Castlemartyr you turn right and go through Ladies Bridge.
Yes.
And we're actually on the road between Ladies Bridge and Garryvoe at the moment, and we will be a little bit nearer to Garryvoe in hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
I see.
But it's a centre. While it's placed in Garryvoe at the present time, we have at least we have had over the last couple of months people from all over the country down for various weekends and helping out. And we've had people from outside the country. At the moment I have a young Mexican lad staying with me. He's with another organisation, but they have been visiting the schools in the Diocese of Clyne, and they have been staying a priest, and this young man is staying with us at the moment. Yes. He's from Mexico. Yes. And we have had people from Eastern Europe. There were quite a big number of young people involved in other community projects in the country, like the Camp Hill community, and they come in to do a year's voluntary work with these communities, and they are interested in what other communities are around, so they've come to us and stayed with us at weekends and are learning to see what kind of different spirituality we would have from Camp Hill. Camp Hill is very much a New Age community, so there's quite a difference between what they do and what we do.
I see.
But it's of interest.
Well, Father, we can only hope and pray for the success of this mission, and particularly success with your evening of prayer and gospel songs in St. Corma's Church, Macroom, Wednesday, February the 18th at 8 p.m. And the tickets are available locally at €12 each. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too for giving us this opportunity to share that with you. So thank you and good night.
Just forgive me or I die. Please let me try again.
Last weekend in Ballingeary at Ardley, a presentation took place to Bantry Home Carers. This was the proceeds of a societal sponsored to Bantry, and it raised €51,000, which is a huge amount of money. We went along with our cameras to pick up what happened at the presentation.
We call Mrs. Johnson, keep the kids a day or two, take an early flight to London, like the way we used to do, have room service, brings breakfast, make a ball through the day. If we're not back in love by Monday, we can go our separate ways. If we're not back in love by Monday, we can't say we didn't try. But before we bury our love, let's make sure we let it die. Sleep a few more nights together, say the things we used to say. If we're not back in love by Monday, we can go our separate ways. We can find that little cafe with the funny sounding name. Take the table by the window, say I love you once again. If the Father and Claire is still there, we dance until the break of day. If we're not back in love by Monday, we could go our separate ways. If we're not back in love by Monday, we can't say we didn't try. But before we bury our love, we're not back alone by Monday. We could go our separate ways.
On behalf of the organising committee of the Ballingeary Fun Cycle, which was held on the 27th of September last year, I would like to welcome everybody here tonight to Arnolly for the presentation of monies that were raised. As you are all aware, this presentation was cancelled on 2 previous occasions due to bereavements, and I'm sure you will all join with me here tonight in offering our deepest sympathy to Dennis and Loretta Hurley from Inchigeela and their family, and to Bernie and the Toomey and Cannon family of Ballingeary on the untimely deaths of both Denny Hurley and Finbar Toomey. When the cycle was first being organised, it was hoped that we perhaps could raise equal the amount that we raised for the Christmas Day dip in December 2000. This was an amount of £12,500, which was a huge amount of money at the time. It was very obvious from an early stage that the interest in the cycle was phenomenal. And on the morning of the cycle, when 150 cyclists lined up at the cross by the dressing rooms, it was obvious it was going to be a huge success. A huge success indeed it was. And when the Ballingeary Pipe Band led the cyclists into Kenmare, it was a scene that will live in our memories for a very long time. Business people, locals and tourists joined in welcoming the cyclists into Kenmare. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Quill family and the Lansdowne Hotel for their hospitality in providing refreshments for everybody on the day. When the final cyclist arrived back in Ballingeary on the evening of the cycle, it was a very proud moment for everybody. Indeed, and one would sense a marvellous sense of achievement. The reason that this particular charity was picked was because it came to the notice of the organising committee that Marymount Hospice were opening a hospice facility in the Bantry area. Everybody knows the marvellous work that Marymount and the hospice nurses do, and it is consolation that cancer patients in the area now have the option of returning to their own homes for the last few weeks of their lives, knowing that they will get marvellous attention and care from these hospice nurses. The figure of over €52,000 collected indeed was phenomenal, and it allowed Marymount Hospice to buy 3 new cars for the nurses that will be servicing the Bantry Hospital area, and the remainder of the money will go into a fund for future administration. I would like to thank, number one, all of the cyclists, the people who gave of their money, people who gave other forms of sponsorship, indeed Ballingeary Pipe Band, all of the stewards, collectors, and indeed everybody who helped out to make this a very successful fundraising campaign. Finally, I would like to thank Sheila and Paddy Lynch for making their facilities available again tonight, and indeed for their marvellous hospitality on the evening of the cycle when we arrived back to Ballingeary. I hope you all have a very enjoyable evening. Now, the first speaker tonight is a man well known to us all, and indeed a man who has organised and collected for numerous charities in the past few years, Dr. Dennis Cotter from Bantry.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me to speak here tonight. I've always been very proud and very humbled to live next to the Gaeltacht. I think that a lot of our culture, our sense of community and our values are certainly created by the proximity that we have to the Gaeltacht. However, the main thing that we get off them is their generosity, and here's yet another example of it tonight. I've been involved in many fundraising events. I've never raised even half that total, and you should all be very proud of yourselves. Thank you very much again. Everybody knows the good work that Marymount do. Recently, my own mum has been the recipient of their expert care, and all of us ask is, when we're ill, is to be treated in the comfort of our own home, with no pain and at peace with our God and with our own dignity intact. Marymount and the Bantry Hospice enable us to do this. Now we can enjoy all of these facilities in Bantry, where the nurses can come here, they can look after you in your own home. Transport is no problem. You can be seen much more often, and we've recently had a palliative care consultant appointed. An awful lot of the credit of that is to you people here. Again, I'd like to thank you very all, and to tell you how humbled I am to be here tonight. I would also like to say it was very nice of you to arrange the cycle on my birthday, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Now I'd like to call on Fionnuala O'Sullivan, Director of Nursing at Marymount, to address you, please.
Thank you very much indeed. And can I begin, ladies and gentlemen, by joining in the comments made by Dennis there about how humbled I am every time I'm invited anywhere into communities late in the evening at the incredible amount of work that has been done quietly and diligently locally by lots of communities around the country. Marymount Palliative Care Service, as you know, is the palliative care, the specialist service for this whole region. And it struck me as Margaret was talking about the organisation to the place is, you know, we can get terribly, specialist units can sometimes get a little bit precious, and we talk in terms of the success of what we do is around multidisciplinary team working. But I actually think there was a model developed here in order to succeed in this cycle race that I'm hearing about that would put multidisciplinary team working in the shade, because they say that, you know, within multidisciplinary teams you shouldn't have a hierarchy. I'm told, you know, there was somebody who was nominally the chairperson, but we worked very equally. I understand you've sort of got a steward for life that was going to make sure that everybody gets to where they ought to get safely. So I actually thought by the time Margaret was finished telling me all about the preparation for this, that she should come as advisors to our unit. Marymount Palliative Care Unit, I think it's, you know, people associated with, it's been there since the late 19th century. We had at one point this title over the door, which I think we still have problems in getting people to walk away from, which was St. Patrick's Hospital for the Incurable. But I think it's really important when we come out tonight such as this to impress upon people is that the palliative care unit is all about life. It is all about bringing people to a situation where they can enjoy their lives. And more we're seeing people whose illness is not amenable to cure, but who we hope will live full and long lives as well. So I think it's important that we get that message out, and I know you will have some sense of that here in this community. The West Cork Home Care Team. You have no idea how delighted I was that the West Cork Home Care Team got up and running, because since I went to Marymount way back in the late 90s, the home care team, at the moment being led in West Cork by Mary O'Rourke, were very, very conscious that we should have been giving an equitable service to the people in West Cork and to the people in North Cork, and it was impossible because we didn't have the manpower and because of geographical distance. So even though people were getting very frustrated down in West Cork, I think it's important to say to you, so were we. And we were so absolutely thrilled to have got some funds in order to be able to get up and running with the Bantry satellite. But I suppose what really got it going was the fact that the communities helped, supported us. Because you know, in these days of partnership, really it is communities sort of in frustration getting the powers that be to move with services. So for the Bantry Home Care Service, it is so far a success. And talking to the nurses the other day, they also were complimenting, as well as they bringing you a service. They were just saying how much support they've got from the people in small communities and what an absolute satisfaction it has been for them in terms of their professional work, to be able to go to people in very remote places living on their own and support them living there for as long as they can. We couldn't do any of it without communities such as yourselves, and I must say I am bowled over by what's on that cheque over there, because my goodness, it is some achievement. So what can I say to you? Only thank you very, very much indeed. I suppose it's important to say that Bantry is also, as well as he teaching us a little bit maybe about teamwork and how to get things done, Bantry is the first, I hope, of another satellite, because we need to do the same for the people of North Cork as we've done for the people of West Cork. So we are now sort of biting at the bit to be allowed to do something similar for North Cork, but that's going to take commitment from central government and resources and staffing, etc. But we're using, we are learning from Bantry as to how best to be able to serve the people from North Cork. And of course the specialist unit will continue in the city, and we now need to move from our Victorian building into something more modern. So we're waiting with bated breath from the Minister to give us permission to go ahead with that. So thank you all again for your generosity. Good night.
I'd like to thank, first of all, Paddy Quill, Sheila Lynch, Gob Minahan, Vic Deneen, and Connie Moynihan. They're the people who started off this fundraising campaign. And I'd now like to call on Paddy Quill to present the cheque to Finola, please.
Very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. As Finola said, that Marymount and the hospice nurses couldn't carry on without voluntary subscriptions and fundraising. I think the Queen Ballingeary have done our bit for this year, and what I would say to other communities out there, you can do it as well if you put a little bit of organisation into it, and it's a most worthy cause. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Nigel Bevan of Bantry Cycles. He was so overwhelmed by the number of new bikes that were bought from him before the cycle that he sponsored a bike that's here in front of me. So we didn't know what way to raffle the bike, so we decided that all the cards that were filled, they're over here in the box, and whatever card is pulled out, that person is the winner of the bike. And I'd now like to call on our chief steward for the day, Connie Moynihan, to pick out the card, please. And the winner of the bike is Don O'Leary, the Mills Inn, Ballymora. How much did you give him for that? Connie, you get a couple of points for that.
You're out there running just to be on the run. You're out there running just to be on the run.
The Macroom Soccer Lotto for this week, there was no winner. The winning numbers were 9, 18 and 22, and the €70 prize went to Lance Deneen. Now next week's jackpot there in the Soccer Lotto is at €2,400. The GAA Lotto for this week, the Macroom GAA Lotto, there was no winner. The winning numbers were 4, 9 and 27. The €70 prize went to Jeremiah Crean from Coolderry, Kilmichael, and next week's jackpot is at €1,400. Now the ladies' AGM will take place, the Macroom Ladies' AGM will take place in the Club Pavilion on Friday the 13th of February at 8 p.m. The last heats of the Transition Year Drama Festival. Now the festival has been going on with the last 3 weeks. The first heats were held in Galway, and the winners out of that section were Colashta Colmkill from Ballyshannon, County Donegal. The next heats were held in the Mullingar Arts Centre, and the two teams which were qualified from that area of Leinster were the Old Ladies Secondary School from Bower at Lone and Ballymun Senior Comprehensive School. Listowel, the winners from Listowel were Laurel Hill Secondary School from Limerick, who actually won the National Transition Year Drama Festival last year, with the semi-finals on next Monday, that's February the 9th, commencing at 10 p.m. Now, going back to sport, the last piece of action we have now is from some rally films which we had an interview with this evening, and we now bring you this report. I with me this week Bernard Crowley from Carriganima. Bernard is very interested in rallying and has been all his life. Bernard, would you just maybe first of all give us a brief insight when you started getting involved in rallies? And
the first time I saw a rally was 1981. It was 1981 West Cork Rally. I suppose I had an interest before that, alright, but it was the first one I actually got out to. And from there on I was hooked, I suppose, really.
Yeah, and I presume you've gone to rallies all over Ireland and maybe to the UK as well.
Yeah, Galway, Circle of Ireland. I've never been to Donegal now, but like Cork 20 now, all the local ones there, West Cork, Rally at the Lakes, Stone Throws and Tipperary. Then I've gone abroad as well. Went to the RIC a couple of times, or the Network Q Rally as it's called now, and we were in Catalonia last year, and we're hoping to go to Finland to the 1000 Lakes Rally this year.
And just tell me, have you a car yourself? Or?
No, I don't have a rally car. I'm just an enthusiast, really. Right. I do a lot of filming. I'd say I started filming rallies, I'd say 1999. And I suppose for the last 15, 20 years I've been collecting a lot of old stuff in particular, especially about Billy Coleman. I suppose he would have been the one that had got me interested as well, because I'm a Mill Street man originally, but I
was just going to ask you that.
Yeah,
Billy Coleman would be.
It would have been Billy Coleman would have been my hero really, and Jimmy McRae back in the early 80s, and that's how I got interested in it really, and I've been hooked ever since, I suppose.
And you tell us what you do with the filming.
That's right. We started Danjo and Martin Keller now gave me a hand there at the Cork 20 Rally, and there was a couple more of us as well, and we made a video and we had it up for sale as well, and it went quite well for us. So there was two more friends and myself then decided to go down to Killarney for the historic rally in December.
Right.
And again, we've been getting great reaction to that. An awful lot of people countrywide and even abroad. We've got a few inquiries about it as well. And I think today we've about 70 tapes of that sort, which is great. Great interest out there on it. And what we're planning to do now is, for the rest of the year, we might do all the local rallies around anyway, like West Cork, Rally the Lakes, Cork 20, the Glandore Rally in October, and the historic one again. And we're also going to go to Galway now next weekend, and we'll do a bit of filming there as well. So we'll just see what the interest will be for the rest of the year, and we might show a bit of it on local television, hopefully, if there's a take for it there as well, you know. So that's
there
our
will be,
plan.
because we've shown a bit of it before here on the local television. And have you, I know that you were going to send out something tonight,
That's right, what we're going to show tonight is, firstly, we have the Cock 20 rally, and it's going to have a commentary from Kevin O'Driscoll, and that's about 45 minutes long, and then I'll show the historic rally in Killarney, and I'll be commentating on that myself for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then at the end of that I'll just do a review of the year in rallying in Ireland last year, 2003, just to go through the champions of the different classes and whatever, and finally we'll show a bit of footage from Catalonia and just kind of give a brief review on the World Rally Championship as well, and that would be the basis of the programme as such.
That's very good. Bernard, as I say, it's a new addition to LTV. We're covering a lot of different sports, but car rallying is going to be covered as well, and we thank you for putting this stuff together.
No problem at all. I think it probably got done well, because I mean, if you go to any rally anywhere in the country, there's always a big crowd, and there's always people wanting to see footage afterwards, and I think should certainly go okay. I think any of the rallies that Danger showed before always went well as well, you know, so hopefully we'll be able to show a bit more of it this year.
That's great, and again, thanks for getting involved.
No problem at all.
As I say, we'll be delighted to watch it on the local television.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Bernard.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a few inquiries about it as well, and I think today we've about 70 tapes of that sort, which is great interest out there on it. And what we're planning to do now is, for the rest of the year, we might do all the local rallies around anyway, like West Cork, Rally the Lakes, Cock 20, the Glandore rally in October, and the historic one again. And we're also going to go to Galway now next weekend, and we'll do a bit of filming there as well. So we'll just see what the interest will be for the rest of the year, and we might show a bit of it on local television, hopefully, if there's a take for it there as well, you know. So that's
there
our
will be,
plan.
because we've shown a bit of it before here on the local television. And have you, I know that you were going to send out something tonight.
That's right, what we're going to show tonight is, firstly, we have the Cock 20 rally, and it's going to have a commentary from Kevin O'Driscoll, and that's about 45 minutes long, and then I'll show the historic rally in Killarney, and I'll be commentating on that myself for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then at the end of that I'll just do a review of the year in rallying in Ireland last year, 2003, just to go through the champions of the different classes and whatever, and finally we'll show a bit of footage from Catalonia and just kind of give a brief review on the World Rally Championship as well, and that would be the basis of the programme as such.
That's very good. Bernard, as I say, it's a new addition to LTV. We're covering a lot of different sports, but car rallying is going to be covered as well, and we thank you for putting this stuff together.
No problem at all. I think it probably got done well, because I mean, if you go to any rally anywhere in the country, there's always a big crowd, and there's always people wanting to see footage afterwards, and I think should certainly go okay. I think any of the rallies that Danger showed before always went well as well, you know, so hopefully we'll be able to show a bit more of it this year.
That's great, and again, thanks for getting involved.
No problem at all.
As I say, we'll be delighted to watch it on the local television.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Bernard.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.